Okay, guys, well, welcome here. This talk has been really anticipated by us from our side, and I know anticipated by a few of you guys. And as I say, I always appreciate you guys giving your time up for any event that we ever put on. And so we always try and make sure it's ram-packed with very useful things for you to be able to take from this. So I'm going to make this as useful as possible for you. So I'm going to start with an apology, guys. Ever since we set up GoProposal 4 years ago, as you know how the system works in that it produces the engagement letter, we have devoted a lot of our time to that part of it, ensuring that it's the most sophisticated system for assembling your engagement letters as we possibly can. And you guys have given us some great feedback. I see the names in here, like I know Penny has been great in contributing ideas, for example, to make that sophisticated as possible. So you got great controls around the service schedules and how all of these things get pulled in. But we've always made one assumption. And the assumption was that the engagement letters that you were putting into the system in the first place were of extremely high quality. I just always made that assumption that what you were given from your professional body was fully assembled, perfectly reflective of your firm and exactly what you're doing, so you can copy and paste that into the system. But as we all know, garbage in, garbage out. So if you have not been given what you need to put into the system in the first place, then it doesn't matter how good and how sophisticated we make GoProposal, you are never going to get the output that you need because of what you've been given to enter into the system in the first place. A few months ago, the ACCA announced that they were no longer going to be providing updated engagement letters to their members, as a few of you know. This caused a problem for us at GoProposal because obviously we rely on you guys inputting your engagement letters into the system in the first place. But it also caused a problem for MAP, our accounting business, because we also rely on the engagement letters from the ACCA as well. And I just always assumed that everything that we had, again, was right. So this caused me a bit of a panic for about 24 hours, but I always try to be resilient and resourceful and do my very best to solve problems. And so within 24 hours or 2 days, I think, I'd managed to track down this lady, Val Stewart. And Val Stewart introduced me to someone else called Ian Waters. Now, the reason why these two people are significant is that they wrote the original engagement letter templates were certainly involved in that process for the ACCA in the first place. There were also two people that you could argue have written the AML playbook for the UK. Val can't be on this talk today because she is delivering a seminar on AML and the very forefront of what that means. And these two people are brilliant. And when I reached out to them, they were a little bit tricky to get hold of, and they were a little bit reluctant to talk to me to start with. And I had to convince them of where I was coming from with this and what I was trying to do. And I said, could we commission you to produce our own engagement letter templates for GoProposal members to cover the ACCA? And she says, we can. And not only for the ACCA, but for all governing bodies, but on one condition. And that condition is that you get out of our way and you allow us to do our very best work with no restrictions to bring the very best of all of our experience to the party and to create something quite special. Because she said, regardless of who we've worked with in the past, we have never been given that full freedom. And if we were to work with you, that is what we would want to do. And I'm like, game on. That's what we're all about here. Being disruptive, doing our very best work, driving the industry forward, driving, the relationship with your clients forward. So I was all in. Now, if you don't know my background, the only thing I'm actually fully qualified in is as a designer. So I have a master's degree in product design. And being a designer, what we're trained to do is to first of all uncover what the problem is, the real problem, not the problem that's presented. So the problem that's presented in this case is we don't have engagement letters templates, let's get engagement letter templates. But I'm trained to dig deeper than that and say, well, actually, if we're going to do this, let's do this properly and let's really uncover what's going on. And it's this that I really want to share with you today, guys, that I think you're going to take a lot from. So the first thing that we discovered was that most firms are exposed to risk. Now, I don't have hard stats for you, only the straw polls that we've done, the engagement letters that we saw, the investigations that we did initially. But I would estimate that it's in the high 90% of firms are exposed to risk. Now, the nature of the work that you guys do, whether you're accountants or bookkeepers, advisors, is that you're dealing with sensitive data from your clients. You are giving critical advice that affects the finances of their business and potentially the running of their business and success of their business as well. You may be paying bills on behalf of your clients, and you may be paying their staff as well. You're helping your clients to meet specific deadlines and to meet their obligations from a tax point of view, from paying meeting their tax deadlines and paying certain tax bills as well, so that business can be, meet all of the legislation that they need to meet. And because there are so many moving parts in all of that, and people, you've got different people on your side, they've got different stakeholders on their side, the likelihood of something going wrong is high. Now, this is not going to be a theme of what I'm doing throughout this talk. I don't want to put the fear of God into you. I'm going to make this really practical, and I'm going to share what the real fears are, and I'm going to remove some of those as well for you. But I just want to be really open with you and kind of share things from our firm as well. Like MAP paid, we registered, what did we do? We applied for a trademark to be done. And there's loads of scams around that as soon as you've applied for a trademark. Anyway, a bill then came in, we passed it to MAP and it got paid, and it was a fraudulent bill and we couldn't get the money back. Well, it was several £1,000s, that bill. And, where does the responsibility lie? Who's got the responsibility for that? Because part of the service they were providing to us was they were paying bills on our behalf, and it wasn't clear where the obligation was. We passed it to them, they paid it. Should they have checked it? Should we have checked it? It wasn't clear. And so there's so many gaps where mistakes can be made. And if we've all made them, look how good you are. We've all made them at some point in our firm. So the likelihood of something going wrong, and there's different levels of that, as I'll explain, is very, very high. We've also got a lack of resources in our firm. And I think that's really been put to the test this year with the extra strains that you guys have all been under. We have a lack of resources. And when I think of resources, I think of them in several areas. We have a lack of time. We have a lack of people. We have a lack of expertise and knowledge in certain areas as well. And we can have a lack of money. We need to maybe make more money. That's the fourth resource. But the key resources that we have a lack of that particularly affect this area are expertise and knowledge, time, and people to help us to do this. Because at the end of the day, to be able to remove this risk, or certainly minimize the risk to the very best of your ability, you have to produce a legally binding contract. Now, at its most basic, a contract is a promise. A contract is a promise between multiple partners, or two people, or multiple parties normally, that says, this is what we're going to do for you. This is what you're going to do for us. And this is what will happen if you don't. At its most basic, that's what it needs to do. And to be legally binding, it has to have certain components that you must have. And a lack of one of those components can completely undermine the document should it get pulled out of the drawer. The next thing is, because of the nature of the industry that you are in, you've got to fulfill certain regulatory obligations, and you've also got certain requirements of your professional body that you have. The contract needs to perfectly reflect your firm's circumstances, and as your circumstances change, they need to reflect those as well. So if you get a new director, or you decide that you want to offshore, or you're going to start to handle client money, or provide investment services, or I don't know, take a commission from an introductory fee or something like that, all of those need to be reflected in your terms and conditions. On top of that, you need to have them fully scoped out for the different entities that you serve, whether that's limited companies, do you do audits with those, trusts, sole traders, individuals, charities, etc. And the more complicated those entities are, the more complex your scopes have to be within the suite of engagement letters that you have. If you were to serve charities, for example, even if you have one charity, you would need to be able to craft that scope for that charity. You would need 504 possible scopes to pick out for that charity. So you'd have to assemble that either yourself or have a library that you could go and pick from to ensure that perfectly fits the criteria of that entity. And then you have to bring in the specifics of each engagement, which obviously we help you with GoProposal, but there can be additional things as well, such as maybe key dates need to be included in that engagement letter that you would have to go and add in manually, historically. And you may also need multiple authorizing signatures on that engagement letter as well, outlining the services, key dates. There's lots of other things that need to go into there for actual each engagement. And this is the final bit. I don't know if you're making notes. I'm recording this. I will share it with you afterwards. It must be clear. If that engagement letter is not clear, what chance do you have of expecting your clients to fulfill the obligations that you're outlining in that contract? And more importantly, what chance do you have in your firm of delivering on it? If everyone in your firm doesn't have sight of this document and doesn't have a clear understanding of this, even your most junior members of your team, if they can't understand what this document actually means, what chance do you have of delivering on the promises that you're making? And that's key as well. This is not just a tick box exercise I'm going to show you. This is about us delivering on what we're doing here as well. And finally, the third issue that I spotted is that the bar has been set too low. The bar has been set too low for all of you. This is complicated and onerous. To produce these contracts and then to fulfill them is a very, very arduous task that takes a lot of time and resource. They change regularly. We need to keep updated with those, you know, as things change. So we need to be constantly looking for those changes and then bringing those in. And to do it effectively, you would need a team of people working with you to be able to achieve that. That is no exaggeration. And whilst you may have great understanding, and I know that there's people on here who have really committed time and effort to learning all of this, it's still a very hard task to be able to do. And only the largest firms can really afford to build out such a compliance and technical team that they could kind of get support with this. So because it's so hard to do, we can only really think about this task in terms of managing risk. And when we're thinking about just managing risk and meeting our compliance obligations, we're actually just getting over a very, very low bar. It's the equivalent of your marriage vows to your partner being just this. If we get a divorce, I want half the house and the dog at a weekend. That is what the equivalent of most engagement letters are. They are there for if they just are there to protect if the worst happens, but they're not fulfilling something that they can do, which is far greater. And that's the thing that's really inspired me with this project. That's the thing that's really excited me and that's dragged us through long, long nights of solving what seemed like tiny problems for you, devoting many, many hours, many people of solving these small things so we can start to achieve something much more. To help us to understand where you guys are with this and to help us to understand what we're doing, we've developed this model, which if you've not seen already, it's in the community, but I'll share it with you as well after this, or Heather will post this. Is something we've called the 7 degrees of progressive compliance. And what we have seen here is that most firms operate in this lower half, where they're internally focused and they're focusing on managing practice risk, meeting your compliance obligations, meeting your professional body regulations, etc., to ensure that you get a tick in the box. And if you're getting to level 4 on this and you've managed to get everything complete, and by the way, this isn't an exclusive list. So for example, you don't have to have completed all of level 2 before you move on to level 3. You could have got 80% of level 2 done and then 90% of level 3 and then 50% of level 4, etc. If you've managed to nail all of those 4 levels to get to a point where you're fully managing your practice risk, I applaud you. That is a fantastic task and a very, very hard thing to achieve. And I think there's very few people achieving that. I think if people are honest with themselves, that we're talking down in level 2 and level 1, non-compliance or surface compliance. I spoke to a firm yesterday who's acquired another firm. They have 1,000 clients with outdated engagement letters, and they're kind of bobbling around these lower areas and want to get these the engagement letters out there to achieve something far greater than that. They really want to push the bar on this and get something far beyond this as well. And we're helping them to do that, which is really exciting for us. But I'll share this document out for you to have a look, and you can honestly kind of answer this yourselves in terms of where you see you guys are. The mistakes that people make in trying to solve this problem in their firms is that, number one, they use engagement letter templates. And this is the thing I apologize at the start of this, because I always thought they were enough. Engagement letter templates are like being given a set of building blocks. You have still got to then assemble them into the correct order to reflect your firm, reflect the entities you serve, etc. So they're fully compliant documents. In order to bridge the gap of compliance in your firm, you have got to assemble them into a bridge. They are an adaptable product. This is the word. They are adaptable, but you have to bring the knowledge to be able to adapt them to get them to do what you want them to do to be able to bridge that gap. The next thing is that we use lawyers. So in our firm, we've used lawyers to create our terms and conditions in our firm. And whilst that's great, they don't have, by their own admission, certain regulatory knowledge, and they certainly don't have the knowledge of our professional bodies in terms of what that has to include fully. So it was a long process. I think it cost us $5,000 to get done. I know it can be better. This is in our firm. This was done years ago. And I also know that because lawyers are producing them, they're fully designed to protect the firm, and there's a lot of legalese in there as well. Another mistake is that people overcomplicate them. And if you are overcomplicating them, then you are removing the clarity from them, which therefore makes it more difficult for people to fulfill their obligations with them. The ICAW, I think, have probably the most thorough set of engagement letters and have a lot of support around that and help around that. But I think if you use them, they're very, very complicated documents to work through. And whilst they may give you full coverage of protection, they're not necessarily the easiest documents to be able to understand by you or by your clients as well. Two more mistakes. One is automating a garbage input. If you automate it, whether that's with GoProposal or something else, you can fall into the trap of thinking, well, I've got a system that produces it. But what it's producing is not of the quality that it needs to be because of what's been put into it in the first place. So we need to be very mindful of that. And the final mistake, and I'm not going to ask anyone to admit to this, but I know this is happening, is that people use hope. It's the best strategy. I hope nothing goes wrong. I hope everything's okay. I hope we don't have an inspection. I hope no one makes a claim against us. And that is the number one strategy, I think, being used by a lot of firms. And if that's the strategy being used, you are sat on a time bomb. And the way this can go off is a client could ask for a refund because of a mistake that you've made on a service, or you've not fulfilled your obligations on a service. So they may want that service refunding. And I know you've all had that because we deal with it in the GoProposal community very often. The next one is you could have a complaint made to your regulatory body. You could be sued because they want some money back for something. And if you were negligent, you could, the legal action could come out of this. Now, with regards to refunds and complaints, you've got your professional body there to protect you. And with regards to being sued, you've got professional indemnity insurance, professional liability insurance to protect you as well. So you can argue that, well, we've got all this protection around us. What does it matter? I've got so many stories I could share with you, but I think the best one that illustrates this is, and I don't know if you saw me share this in the community, was of a married couple. The accountancy firm was dealing with a married couple who were both directors of a business. Everything was fine. The married couple got a divorce. The divorce was acrimonious. And then the wife wanted to know why certain decisions had been made in the business without her knowledge, why certain monies had been paid, certain things had been bought, certain assets had been whatever, right? Because she'd not authorized the engagement letter. So she complained to the regulatory body, but the complaint got rejected. So she then went to sue the accountancy firm, and they kicked it out. Okay, so they kicked it out. So you might think, well, what's the point of even getting stressed then? Because even in that scenario, nothing happens. The scenario is important because it took the accountancy firm owner in that specific example 250 hours of time to solve the problem. 250 hours on a task that they had no choice to do, that was highly stressful, had no rewards, and took several months. Can any of you imagine if I needed to take 250 hours from you and you don't have a choice when you're going to do it, I need it now, it starts now, what that problems that would cause for you, especially this year? Had they had a solid engagement letter in place in the first place that could have come out, it would have solved all this, that everyone had signed, that was easily agreed to, understood what was going on. It would have solved the problem. I'm about to show you what we've created for you here, guys. But before that, I just want to show you the opportunity that we've got ahead of us. Not only have we got this opportunity to manage practice risk, but there's something greater. We can manage mutual risk, the risk of our clients as well. We can manage the risk of the relationship. We can set clear expectations to create better clients and to help us to be more efficient in the work that we do for them. And we can demonstrate the highest levels of care. Ultimately, we can really help you can remove risk for you and your client. You can set these high level expectations that strengthen the client relationship, lengthen the client relationship, and set you apart in the market. But like I say, most firms can't consider that. It's too big a chasm to cross. But if you had the technical expertise to take those Lego bricks and to build them into something like this, you could achieve something far greater. So the question we asked ourselves was, could we take the intelligence of the people we're working with, their expertise, their 30 years of experience, could we combine them with our technical knowledge and our ability to simplify and to disrupt the market? And could we build that intelligence into the system to allow you guys to be able to do that with ease with every client engagement? And that is what we've been working so hard on to produce over the last 4 months. I thank you so much for your patience in waiting for this product to come to you. We've produced something that we've called OverSuite. I know I ran a competition to name it. I know loads of people came up with ideas. The winner was me, I'm afraid. Sorry. So I'm not sure if you like the name or not, but it came from that we need oversight in this. We need to oversee what's going on. And so we brought this name OverSuite because of what it creates. So guys, gives me great pleasure to now take you through what we've built out for you. Now, in order to get us to the point of being able to achieve this, we have had to in order for us to be able to get to the point where OverSuite operates at the level it needs to, that the levels 5, 6, and 7, we've also built in some innovations into GoProposal that we're all going to benefit from as well. So when you produce a proposal, we've had people trialing these out for us. When you produce, and thank you to all those people, I've seen some of these people on this call. What the system will do is it will generate something called the key dates table. The key dates table is critical in helping you to not only manage your client risk, but also to start to set expectations. So what this will enable you to do is for select services, for you to be able to define what the start date of that service is. Because let's say, for example, payroll, it may not be the start of the engagement. It may be that the client is going to continue to run payroll for another month. So we're not going to start taking liability for that service until then. The reason why that's key is if you don't define that and the client is still going to run payroll for another month and they make a mistake and pay a member of staff who leaves several £1,000s and they can't get the money back, guess who's liable for that money? You. Because you've said you're delivering payroll, it's in your engagement letter that you're going to deliver it from that date and you're going to assume liability over it. And there may also be services that you can't realistically deliver on month one, like monthly management accounts. Maybe that service, you want to agree it now, but because you need to get their bookkeeping in order and certain other things, that you want to set up a rule that you can't start that for another 3 months, for example. So we can build that in there. What this also enables us to do is to be able to be very specific and agree what that quarter is that they're on. For payroll, to be able to agree what frequency of payroll, what day they get paid. We've got last working day in there now. And also for things like, let's say, the confirmation statement date, when is their, so let's move that box. When is their next made up to date in the system as well? And what this will automatically do based on a set of rules that you can very easily establish in the back end is it will build out this table. And this table in certain cases will put specific dates in here. It will show the schedule for VAT return payments, for example. It will show the deadlines for all information so that we're now starting to manage the expectation of the client, show them what they need to do. So for example, I know that Ewan at Total Accounting, for example, has done great work around making sure that his clients get the tax return, meet the tax return deadline. This will now clearly articulate those dates. Now, the control that we've built into the system will allow you to override anything if you needed to. So let's say this is a client, but they need to get their management accounts by the 5th of the week, the following month out. You'll be able to control that in here. There are certain we've tried to think of every rule, but there are certain rules where things can start to become really complicated, depending on when you engage that client in the year. So let's say, for example, something like tax returns. If you set it to be the 31st of October and then the 31st of January is the filing deadline, it will look to the next date in the system after you've engaged this client, okay, which is after the 1st of November. So in this scenario, the next 31st of October after the 1st of November is going to be next year. And so rather than try and establish too many complex rules that we could never deliver on, we're respecting the fact that you are professional people. We're giving you this warning here to say in this scenario, the information deadline is after the filing deadline, because what does this mean? Does it mean that 31st of October is right, but it needs to be January 2022? Or does it mean that actually we need to shift the deadline on this to be the end of November, for example, this year? So it gives you the ability to do that, to bring your professional judgment to the party, but again, very, very quickly to be able to assign that date here, for example. If you don't have all the information for the date at the time of producing the proposal, you can turn the key dates table off. You could save this as a draft and you could go ahead and add this information after the meeting if you needed to get a bit more information in there. And also in here, if you've integrated with Xavier, then as you're producing this, it will pull through the VAT period end to inform which quarter they're on as well. And again, so if you're doing this, you could say, well, October, November, okay, the 1st of November would be right. But if it was a different quarter, again, you could switch the liability of when you're taking over this. In order to set this up, you've got a table in the back end called key dates. We've put some information in there for you to introduce this. If you wish to change the heading of these boxes to be something else in here rather than deadline for all information, I saw Jennifer on here and I know that they don't necessarily do traditional compliance work. So it may be something else that you want to add in here. You can go and do that and that will change the title of those headings for you. So you've got that control to do. The way that you then go and set that up with your specific line items is you simply come into here and you have this key dates option. You may not want to apply it to every service, but you can do. You can choose, you can set the start date. Is it the start date of the proposal, or is it the start of their financial year? For example, in this case, for annual accounts, you may want it to be the start of their financial year. When is the deadline for all information? So in this case, I've put year end plus 2 months, and then the filing deadline is going to be year end plus 9 months, obviously. But you could also have a text area to put text in if you wanted to. You could specify a date. You could get the client to specify a date, as we've got with the confirmation statement. So that's when we've put in here the, sorry, it's there. You can just go and copy that because that's likely that you would want that. So you could go and have a specified date in here and have next made up to date. Or you can also choose paydays, payroll, or if you choose that quarter, it will automatically build out the statutory filing periods in here as well. If there's anyone here that's non-UK, we will be adapting certain aspects of this for Australia and the US. They're in the pipeline and they're happening. But again, you've got a lot of flexibility to be able to go and do the work that you need to do around key dates. And this is going to be the first thing that we set you as a task to do after this session today, guys. This one feature, I cannot tell you how much work has gone into solving this. And as difficult as it got, I just kept saying to myself, I know that no one else has solved this problem. And so we just persisted with this to make this work. Someone's just asked here, sorry, does it cater for monthly VAT returns? Yeah, I never even knew monthly VAT returns existed, right? Or, as Kieran Phelan pointed out, annual VAT returns. Who knew, right? So all of that's been built into the system. There were phone calls I had around this where I had to say to the people on the call that were teaching me all this stuff, I need to stop. This call needs to stop. My brain is going to explode. I need to process the rules you're telling me. And we had to go away and we built out, where are we? All of these elaborate rules around dates, like semi-monthly payroll. Like I didn't know these things existed. We had to really dig into this stuff, guys. So I like people saying this part alone is amazing. Guys, this is significant. But again, it's that concept that I'm not just helping you we're not just helping you, sorry, to fulfill risk and compliance obligations, but to set expectations, create client relationships. Is it possible to have two payroll lines for clients who are both weekly and monthly? For that, Karen, you would have to split out the payroll. So at the moment, rather than have payroll where in the payroll line item, you are specifying, where are we? So in this case here, within payroll, you may have, is it weekly, is it monthly, etc. If you do that, you just have to split that out into two different line items, because at the moment we don't have the concept of assigning key dates to variations within one line item. So for that case, you may have to create a payroll section and just split that out into different payrolls. But obviously you've got the duplicate line item button. So that is the work of moments, Karen, but a great question. Thank you. So that's the key dates section. The next thing we've introduced here is the concept of, at the moment, when we put a contact details in, it's just the company name. We've now introduced the concept of a primary contact detail who's the nominated individual. And what we've also done is introduce the concept of additional signatories. And with those additional signatories, you can select whether they need to authorize the engagement letter and therefore give you permission to deal with the nominated person, or do you just need to get them to sign the privacy notice because you're just going to be doing their tax return? So this is a really good example here for GoProposal. So I would need to authorize the engagement letter. Paul would need to be able to authorize me to deal with you. And you would need Becky and all of us to have signed a privacy notice to ensure that you're complying to data protection and GDPR. So all of those things need to be done. Will this still bring the contact details through from center? Great question. Someone on the call will take that question from you. It will do, Catherine. I'm just thinking about it. It will do. But there's not the concept of bringing additional signatories from center. That could be a really interesting thing to explore, actually, though, couldn't it? So if the concept of different signatories or directors exist in there, you could bring them through. Can we use the key date section in year 2 without having to send a new engagement letter? Mike, you need to send a new engagement letter. We're going to get really strict with you. We want to help you with this, okay? So we need to be reissuing those engagement letters. But when you duplicate the previous year's engagement letters, all of the dates will automatically update for you for the new engagement. But we do need to reissue the new engagement letter. So with regards to signatures, guys, so this covers that scenario that I explained to you. New engagement letter every single year to reissue with a renewal, because you need to agree the services, Tim, and any price increases that you've got. So if you don't, it will be taken from the previous one. Certainly for the key dates to take effect, you would need to issue a new engagement letter. Now, the new engagement letter doesn't need signing. It's just to send it to them to show them what's going on. But that should just be part of your annual review process anyway. So I would hope that would be in there. I'll come on to more questions at the end, guys, just to make sure I've got time to get through everything. So what your acceptance page will look like now is we've redesigned this. And so this now has the concept of adding multiple signatures into here. I can't click in to sign Paul's or Becky's. I can only sign my own. And because I've been required to sign the privacy statement and the confirmation, that's what I'm going to be able to get to do. But everyone else would have been issued with an email for them to sign it. The nominated person will get updated with every signature that gets added. And now this is the new design of the proposal area in the background. And what you'll be able to see is which signatures are still outstanding for this. And you could reissue the emails to those, and you'll be able to see when they get selected. We've had an overhaul of this dashboard just because we're starting to give you much more information and control now. So we've just redesigned this to be much clearer. So you can see what's live, what's won, what's in draft, what's been sent, and so you can manage all of the signatures as well. So this won't need any introduction. It will be very straightforward, and you'll have the control that you need there. So that's where we're up to. Key dates, multiple signatures, and how they get accepted. Now I'm going to introduce you to the concept of OverSuite. So when you sign up for OverSuite, guys, the place this is going to start is you're going to open up the wizard. The wizard is going to take some questions about your firm, and this should not take long to do. These are all standard questions that you should know, but by next week, we're going to have a video on every single section on here from Valerie, and she's going to be explaining every single section in detail, so you are there's no confusion for you, but it should all be fairly straightforward. So things like, do you have staff? How many directors or partners are there? Are you a member of a professional body? Which professional body are you a member of? Everybody quickly scans to see if their professional body is mentioned in there. Do you provide investment services? If so, how do you provide them? Are you included on the financial services register? Do you provide them directly yourselves? How are you authorized to provide them? So we've gone through all of these questions that you should know the answers to, but like I say, we're going to give you additional guidance as well. And if your circumstances change, you will simply come back to this wizard, you will open it up again, and let's say, for example, where are we? You now start to subcontract work, or you start to offshore that to a different country or someone else in this country, you're simply going to switch no to yes, and that will automatically update all of your terms and conditions for you. Do you hold client money? Do you receive commission? How do you handle complaints, etc., etc.? All of this stuff is really straightforward and really simple. Is every professional body listed? A lot of them are. So if you just take a quick screenshot of that and go and check, if your professional body isn't there, please let me know, and we'll go and have a look at why that isn't there. But there's certainly a lot of them there. Once you've done that, the instant you create that, you'll be able to see all of the answers. And again, by next week, you'll be able to download this as well. And what this will automatically do, when you see a slightly different configuration of this page, is it will build out your terms and conditions. So all of these terms and conditions, sorry, there's a quick question there, sorry. I'll come on to the question shortly. All of these terms and conditions will be built out in accordance with your professional body and in terms of the services that you have selected. If for whatever reason you want to go and change or amend any of these, you can do. So if you wanted to go and either add a paragraph to the end of this, you can. If you wanted to turn off a paragraph, you've got the control to be able to do that as well. And you can also come and amend one. You just need to be careful with this, because the way that we've designed this system is if there are any changes to legislation, we are going to make an update for you. We'll make an update that will then get pushed out to your terms, and you will get the opportunity to accept them or not. You'll be notified if that happens. It won't be very often, but let's say something like GDPR hits, you don't have to stress it. We'll go and update that for you and send that through to you. If you decide that you want to edit one of these sections yourself, it turns blue and it will break that connection to any future updates. But what we will then do is, if we go and update that section because of a change of legislation, you'll be notified and you'll see a little warning on here to say, this has been updated in line with this legislation. And then if you want to go and revert back to the original or the new updated one, or If you simply want to go and copy parts from what we've just created for you, you could go and do that and paste it into here, and you could still retain control of that. So we are acting with our experience and our expertise, well, not mine, but the people that we've engaged with this project, they'll be keeping things up to date for you, but you can go and do this for yourself if you want to. I will not, Patrick saying, I will not refund fees already paid. Can I change your terms and conditions to reflect that? Absolutely. If you want to go and make those changes, you can do. Just what we just warn you with it is that please be aware that you're breaking any connection with any updates, and you are now taking responsibility for that being accurate, and you've got to make sure that the whole document still stands. So if you are changing any statutory notices in there, you could potentially negate the entire contract if you were to make a mistake with that, but you're assuming liability over that by doing so. We've also introduced the concept of a privacy notice as well, because this will now need to be signed potentially if you want it to. So that's just got a little bit of additional functionality. And again, this gets built. If you don't want to use ours, you can go and create your own if you wanted to, but OverSuite will construct your privacy notice for you. But the big thing that it produces, guys, is it produces this suite of scopes for you. So for sole traders, for limited companies, where they're audited, non-audited, partnerships, individuals, solicitors, accountants, report, trusts, etc. All of this is going to be built out for you. And again, you've got the same control that you've just seen with the terms and conditions. So you can come in here, you can load in any of these that we've built. And again, if you wanted to amend any of these, you can come and take over the functioning of any of the specific scopes and any of the specific paragraphs. You can go and do that. So you can take control of it. If you want to switch to a read-only mode, you can see it very, very clearly. And you'll be able to download all of this as well if you want to print it off and go and scan the documentation separately. You'll also be able to assign a specific set of terms and conditions if you wanted to, but the terms and conditions relate to your company, the scopes relate to the entities. You're going to get a very comprehensive set of scopes, a very comprehensive library that builds out. But we've had to split out the charities into a separate pack, which I'll show you very, very shortly. But the charities, guys, it's crazy, right? The work we've done around that. If you pick a charity, it will now ask you what type of charity it is, where is it registered, what's the primary registration of that, how are you preparing the accounts, who's the statutory auditor, and what's the reason for this audit. Those simple questions there will then handcraft one of 504 engagement letters. That is not 3 engagement letters for charities sat here. That is 504 engagement letters that are sat there just for charities. The work that we have put into this, Valerie is the authority. While she's got 30 years experience in compliance and regulation and audits, etc., she is the authority on charities. She gets brought into companies and firms to help them when there's a problem, to help prevent problems, to train them, or if something's hit the fan, she goes in and she sorts this out for you. Penny, I love that comment. The hours I spend trying to sort the ICA ones out, how many hours you devote to this? I know, we're going to take this away from you. The final concept we've got in here, guys, I just want to share with you very briefly, is the concept of key people. So within here, they were called principals before. We've now broadened this because they may be a director, a principal, or a statutory auditor, and I'll show you how they work. Within the letterhead component, this is the next bit. If Penny loved that last bit, Jonathan, if Jonathan Rowden's nearby, please just hold Penny down because she is going to lose it at this point. Dependent on what you have selected, it will automatically build out what's called a professional body legend, which will appear within the letter of engagement. It will also list out any of the key people that you've identified as a director. Now, depending on the nature of your business, they may be classed as members or partners potentially. So you can go ahead and change that, but it will automatically either list out the partners in there, or if you want to put a link to your web address, you can do that. And it will also craft your letterhead footer. If you miss one component of the letterhead footer that you legally need to have in there, the entire contract can be void. If you are a limited company, there is one of 10 letterhead footers that it would need to be, dependent on the services you provide and the nature of your business. OverSuite will craft that letterhead footer perfectly for you. Again, if you want to override that, you can do. But depending on what you put into the system, this will go and sort that out for you. When we produce a proposal, the way those other key people get pulled into play with this, just like you've got before, you're able to assign a principal in charge. So the principal may be pulled into that part of the component of the proposal. But then within here, you may also be pulling through the directors into this page and your professional body legend with the correct logo on there as well. So depending on who you're with, that and the letterhead footer will all be fully compliant. So like if you get a new director in your firm, that will automatically get added to here. And then also, if you've assigned those key people as statutory auditors, that will now be in this list here if you're carrying out an audit for this client. So that's how those key people get used in different sections. As well as using your own service schedules, you can also use one from OverSuite. So we've built out all of these service schedules, again, which we will keep updated for you. So if you want to go and grab one here for management accounts, for argument's sake, it will build it out. And on the exact same principles that I've shown you for everything else, if you want to go and add additional paragraphs for our service to you or their responsibilities, or you want to amend any of these, you can go and do that. And one we'd specifically encourage you to do is the data processor agreement for payroll, which is really quite intricate. So you'd certainly want to go and check that out. But you've got all the service schedules in there as well. So back to my presentation, guys. Thank you for everyone's feedback so far. This is why it's taken so long. This is why I've been so excited to get it to you, but why I've also not minded that it's taken this length of time. This is a significant piece of work that we've created here for you guys. Unlike anything we have brought to you before, this is not just a new feature. This is not just something just to make life quicker and slicker. This is the first time that we are shaping your terms and conditions. We are shaping your scope. We are fundamentally shaping the promise that you are making to your clients, the obligations you're fulfilling, the promises you're making, the responsibilities you're setting out to them. This could potentially affect processes in your business. This is not something you can just turn on and say, we've done it. This is not a tick box exercise. This is something that you need to really deeply understand. And so we need to deliver this to you guys in the right way, in a structured way, to make sure that it gets absorbed and you can start to use it properly. This week, you'll be able to pre-order OverSuite. So you'll be able to access OverSuite. But we need to stagger how we turn this on for you because of the work that needs to be done by you and by us. So the first thing you need to do is set up your key dates. So pre-order OverSuite today, and then this is your weekend task. You've got to now go and set up your key dates. That is a little bit of work you've got to do for your services. You will need to set time aside for that. And that will take a little bit of time. Once you've done that, next week, we are going to then turn on your service schedules for you. So you'll be able to go and assign those to each of the correct line items, and multiple signatures will be turned on for you to start going and trialing that and getting comfortable with that. The week after, the complete OverSuite wizard will be launched. This is just to give you time to make sure that you've got the other components in place, because if you launch OverSuite, but you've not got the key dates set up, OverSuite's not going to work as it needs to work. If you've not got the multiple signatures, if you've not got the key people set up in the system, it's not going to work as it needs to. So that's just the other bit I'm just going to add into there is the key people as well. We have got 2 more momentum sessions that we're going to be doing with you next week and the week after to get these things landed in your app with you, to work with you, to overcome any specific questions and challenges that you've got, to make sure that you're all geared up so that we can solve all this very quickly with you. In terms of what you get for OverSuite, the foundation pack, you get the terms and conditions, the privacy notice, letterhead, footer, and professional legends. You get that set of scopes. We're also going to be introducing the concepts of a disengagement letter that you'll be able to do through GoProposal. professional clearance letter and authority letter, and all of the service schedules. And just like with GoProposal, you can turn it on. You can get a free trial of it to start with, guys. You can cancel it whenever you want. And then we've split out the not-for-profit pack. You will get the charities, community interest companies, clubs, and not-for-profit unincorporated organizations. Within the scopes over here, sorry, you've got individuals. Individuals is quite a unique one because you've got to have within individuals the cooling off period as well. Solicitors, accountants, rules, audit, and trusts. If there's anything we've missed off, we will look to build those out as fast as we possibly can for you. Val, who's in charge of working with charity, accounting firms that serve charities, helps them to set this up and deals with the fallout when it goes wrong, says that if you have if you do one engagement letter with this a year with this system, you have got your money back for what it would cost, time savings, and inaccuracies moving forward. So how do you sign up? Great question. All you need to do is log into your app, navigate to your account page, and you will see this at the top here that says OverSuite pre-order now. No money will be taken. This will unlock the other features. It will get you access to the momentum sessions that we can be doing with you over the next 2 weeks. It means that as soon as OverSuite gets launched, you will get access to it. When it gets launched, you will get an additional 30 days free trial on top of that. So you're not using up any time by pre-ordering now. And all you need to do is go and click that button and you will be into this. I felt like a bit of a tremble in the universe then. I feel we've done something significant here, guys. When we launched GoProposal, I felt we'd done something big, and obviously we've evolved it. I feel this is big. I feel this changes our relationship to what an engagement letter is. This is no longer a document that sits in a drawer that gets pulled out to hit someone over the head with, or when something hits the fan. This is something we can use to establish long-term, strong relationships with our clients. This takes the power and the knowledge that even if you've got this knowledge, guys, even if you as a firm owner, practice manager, have spent time trying to do this and learn this, the rest of your team won't have this. This is now putting that knowledge and power into the hands of every single member of your team so that everyone has this power. So I'm just going to whiz through some of the questions. Someone saying they've crashed GoProposal. Evo, can someone just let Evo find out if we've actually broken the internet with the launch of this, and we can sort that out, please? That's cool. So I've tried to answer any questions. We'll go into specific key dates questions next week in that momentum session, and you've also got support in there as well. But I'm just we've got to the end of the time now, guys. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to stay here and work through all of these questions. So I've delivered to you everything I wanted to deliver to you. Thank you so much for being on here. But anyone that's got any more questions, or you want to wait and see my answers to these questions, please stay with me. I'm not going anywhere. So the dashboard, please, could we have a headings that we can click to sort the data? I think that's coming in there as well. Penny, we've got big news around that anyway. If you have a self-employed working for you, would that show as staff? I will find the answer out to that question. Lenez, I'm sorry if I pronounced your name wrong there. Our CIC is covered. I've just shown you that, Chris. That's cool. Thank you, Penny. You're in shock that you love it. Will it cope with registered probate firms? I don't know what that means, but I will investigate that for you, Patrick. Amazing work, Stuart. There is nothing else that can hold a candle to this. Thank you, Stuart. That really means a lot. Cheers, mate. Somebody who saw this yesterday said if something went wrong and they ended up having to go to court, they wouldn't lose a night's sleep knowing they had this in their corner. With the other system they were exploring, they would. So that was great. We use the year-end date as the end of the retainer. Quite often the year-end date has already passed for accounts when we take a client on. Will this affect the key dates? That should be thought through, Libby, in the system. We can take that specific question and have a look and explore that with you. If you want to message us in the chat, that's cool. Does the not-for-profit just cover bookkeeping arrangements rather than full account prep? Does the non-for-profit cover just bookkeeping arrangements rather than full accounts prep? Full accounts prep. Hannah, everything. It covers all accounts prep, audits, and bookkeeping, the whole lot. This is amazing. Thank you, Christy. Thank you, Ben. Yeah, we've tried to make it this reasonable for you.
Are you going to add separate scopes for landlords? Great question. Let me check that one out. Jitten. I'm in. Hooray. Damn, I'm on holiday. You have to cancel the holiday. Patrick, sorry. And if you go on holiday and you end up getting put in isolation, you could, on the plus side, you could actually use that time for doing this. So swings and roundabouts. Very good. I'm in. Looks amazing. We're with ICPA. They weren't listed. Let me go and check that out for you. I'll make sure that's in there for you. This is going to save my life. This is too cheap. This is going to be for the first round of people that go in. The price may well go up after that, but certainly for you guys, we're going to get you into this because you've waited so long for it. You've crashed GoProposal. We've broken the internet. GP is going slow. We'll sort that out for you. Don't stress. That's cool. Fan bloody tastic. Congratulations, James. I wanted this so badly when we got started. I know, Penny. It's cool. Thank you. Can't pre-order. You've crashed it. We've broken the internet. I'm sorry about that. Is there an intention for an engagement letter for advisory work, special projects work, etc.? I think that is covered in the service schedules, Bharat. So I just need to check that. But the scope is aimed at the entity. The service schedule is aimed at the work that you're doing. But let me just chase up special projects for you and just ensure that is the case. But I think we've already got that covered for you. Thank you, Game Changing Products. What happens when interconnected services means that the service schedules aren't correct? i.e. bookkeeping services means that you're not relying on client for management accounts, etc. What happens when interconnected services means that the service schedules aren't correct? i.e. bookkeeping services means that you're not relying on the client for management accounts, etc. Yeah, it's a good question. I just need to check that we've got the service schedules relevant for that. So it may mean that we have two service schedules, one for management accounts where you do the bookkeeping and one for management accounts where they do the bookkeeping. So let me just explore bookkeeping variations for you. That's cool. That'll be straightforward. The privacy policy had option for telephone, email, etc. If the client doesn't click that, does that mean we can't talk to them by phone or just can't do any marketing that way? It's just for expressive marketing in that way, Ben. So you can obviously deal with them. It's deemed as reasonable that you can deal with them for anything related to the services that you've agreed. What you really can't do, as GDPR rules dictate, is you can't be actively marketing them via phone, ringing them up, telling them about another service if they've not given you permission to do that. So let's say, for example, you've got a director that you're doing a tax return for, but you now want to speak to them about providing them with financial services, financial advice or something like that. Then they would have to have given you express permission to contact that person directly. And the privacy policy cannot be signed on behalf of them. Privacy policies have to be signed by the individuals. So that's really, really key that we get that right. When will disengagement letters and professional clearance be live? They're in the system already. We just have to make some technical changes, Alexandra, to make sure that works. But it's going to be really great because it will show the key dates table kicks back in with that and the service list. So what it shows them is not only that we're disengaging with you, but when we're disengaging. Because it might be that we're disengaging with you for all of these services, but we're still going to complete your tax return, your VAT return, for example, till the end of next quarter. So we're going to disengage you at that service at that point. So the key dates table will apply again with that. Could you annex on a Word document generating tool that has the proper footer and institute logo? Could you annex on a Word document generating tool that has the proper footer and institute logo? The institute logo will be applied for you in the professional legend. So that will come through automatically. A couple of people having login issues. We'll sort that out for you. Val Wishart. Before I answer your question, Val, I'm going to apologize to you because Val, who also sorted out this project for us, was doing some work with us last week, and Heather was messaging you, Val, and you were on holiday, and we were saying, but you said you'd be doing this work with us this week. So you was getting some grief from Heather, and it wasn't actually you that deserved that grief. So I apologize for that. Are the service schedules for less traditional compliance stuff like R&D tax credits, for example? R&D tax credits are all in there. All of those service schedules will be built out for you. Absolutely great. Thank you. Thank you, Jennifer. Can we reissue new engagement letters only without a proposal to all of existing clients? The proposal comes with it, Steph, because that outlines the service and the service level that you've agreed with them. So we can never split that out from the letter of engagement. So they also always need to go out together. Will there be an option to print and send to an existing client? Some people don't do emails. Yes. We started to build that functionality yesterday. So it will print an additional page of the proposal with the address in a window for you to be able to post those out to people and put them in an envelope and send them. So we've already started to work on that, Ryan. Absolutely. Yes, can you help me with the year-end date? Yes, we will. Steph, you've crashed your proposal. This is amazing. Thank you to everyone. Thank you, Reese. If you only do bookkeeping, would this be overkill? No, absolutely not. Only do bookkeeping. If you've not watched any of my videos recently, you only do bookkeeping. Bookkeeping is like everything. You do bookkeeping. Bookkeepers are not allowed to use the word only or just. Remove those words from your vocabulary. This is not overkill at all. All this for less than some insurances. Yes, Michael. Major step forward. Thank you. What an achievement. This is amazing. Thank you. Alan Davis, seriously a game changer. Your competitions are the one that will now be having sleepless nights, not your customers. We don't have competition, Alan. We just aim to excel at what we do. Other people compete with us. We just crack on with what we're doing and do the very best we can. But thank you. Pre-order, Ben, nice one. Projections is forecasting, either one-off or regularly, will be good to know. I think that would come through as a service schedule rather than as a scope. So let me just make sure we have a service schedule for that in place. If we don't, I will get one written for you. 1 second. Financial forecast. We have one there. So if you want that to be named as projections, but you can overwrite the name of that in here. So you could change that. So I think that's all there for you. I'd also like to thank the pioneers as well who have helped us with this project and who've helped us with the key dates. You have been really important for us, guys, to improve these features before we make them live. So thank you for the time that you committed to that. And hopefully you're not grateful. Hopefully you're happy with the changes that we've made based on your suggestions, because we take everything very, very seriously. And hopefully we've accommodated all of the changes that you've suggested. And if not, these products will continue to evolve, obviously, now as they've hit. So that's fantastic. Guys, I think I've answered all your questions. This just leaves me to thank you all for being on this call for so long. Thank you for all of your comments. Heather will be in touch with you to see if we can perhaps share some of these. I'd love to start creating a bit of a buzz around these. Obviously, when the ACCA announced this, it was a bit of a blow for us, but we have used this as an opportunity to grow as we do with everything. And this has just spurred us on to become better, to help you guys to become better, and to serve your clients better as well. So I just relish the opportunity that we got to be able to create this, and I'm really excited as to where this takes us. This is our first step into compliance, but it won't be our last step. We're already starting to do the next work on this in terms of building out a CRM system, having a client portal so we can start to capture client data and start to move into other areas of AML potentially. So all very, very exciting. Thank you for being members of GoProposal. Thank you for contributing to the community. Thank you for being here today, and for all that you do for banging the drum for us. Thank you, guys. Have a wonderful day.